So we are halfway through the year and Xbox Game Pass has finally heated up this summer and has doubled down on some awesome games. I'm Sonny, your host at Xbox Central, and we start this off with none other than Need for Speed Unbound. This released late last year following the beloved 2019 Need for Speed Heat, and as the name suggests, this game's all about arcade street racing to the max as you engage in some crazy over-the-top illegal underground street races in which money is on the line and glory is going to be what you're seeking. Now, true to the franchise, you're going to be outmaneuvering and outsmarting the cops as they try to take you down. You're going to want to win races to get money for car upgrades and more. And the visuals in this game are like a mix of realism with cel-shaded graphics that really pop out, and I really like it. Finally, there's a full-fledged story mode that's about 20 hours long, but if you're not into that, you can hop online in a variety of races and modes, and you're just going to get tons of hours of content in this game. While it didn't launch to the greatest reviews when it came out at the end of 2022, since then it's gotten really polished. There's a lot of new events, a lot of daily challenges, and a lot of things just happening consistently. So I know I'm looking forward to getting into this one as it releases on June 22nd on cloud, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. A new day one Game Pass game launches here soon in the Bookwalker, and the story here is honestly as unique as it gets. You play a writer named Etienne who's lost the ability to write after being guilty of a horrendous crime, but to gain that ability back, a fellow criminal puts you on the path to steal legendary items from books that you're capable of engaging with. And when you delve into these books, you're on a mission to steal artifacts, things like Thor's hammer or even Excalibur. And to steal these, you're going to be running into unique environments like prisons, snow-capped mountains, even a spaceship, all while solving puzzles and battling and overcoming overwhelming odds to take these precious items, all in the name of getting your writing back. It's honestly a unique adventure to say the least, and one that I look forward to when it lands on June 22nd on consoles and PC. Now, if you're a fan of epic adventures, I think Bramble the Mountain King is one you shouldn't ignore as you play a young boy on a quest to rescue his sister in a strange and mysterious land named Bramble. But what lies within Bramble is what is truly horrifying. Creatures that are completely out of this world, they're hungry and they're evil, and this is just one of those indie games that's almost the evolution of indie games themselves as you get taken on a wild adventure full of twists and turns, heart-pounding boss battles, and one of the most gorgeous looking indie games to date. Not only that, since its release months ago, it has received overwhelmingly positive user reviews for not only its whimsical and fun gameplay, but the story and atmosphere involved in the world of Bramble is something that you really get immersed in. Make sure you guys don't sleep on Bramble when it launches on Game Pass on June 27th. So F.I.S.T. Forged in Shadow Torch is an action-adventure Metroidvania that puts you in the shoes of Raiden, a former soldier with a badass mechanical fist that can turn into a drill or even a whip, or you simply just punch your way through the robots that have taken over the world that was once inhabited by animal life. Now, this being a Metroidvania, this 2D game's a little unique as there's quite a bit of exploration you can do with tons of rooms and chambers and tunnels you'll be discovering. Meanwhile, the game's backdrop and visuals are pretty great looking, mixed with the fluid combat animations, and honestly the game's pretty visually appealing, at least to me anyways. But one cool aspect that I've enjoyed seeing are the epic boss fights you're going to encounter here. I'm a sucker for epic fights, and that's exactly what you're getting with F.I.S.T. Forged in Shadow. Now, the game's coming in with a Metacritic score of 81, and it has about 20 hours of gameplay if you explore a bit, but overall this is a solid Game Pass title that launches on June 27th on cloud, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. So when I talk about unique games, I certainly think about the game Arcade Paradise. This is a game where you take an old laundromat in the 90s and you turn it into a profitable arcade that you run in the back of the facility. It's an interesting take on Sims, but it also comes packed with 35 arcade games that you can set up in your shop, and you can even play the games yourself or just watch your customers do their thing. It's a super interesting title that comes packed with stories, missions, and of course the high scores that you can set yourself across the games themselves. But what I like ultimately is that the goal is to build your very own profitable arcade paradise. But I gotta say, it's not gonna be all glory. Sometimes you're gonna have to do things like cleaning toilets, picking up the trash, or actually having to use the laundromat portion of the building before you can have all that fun gaming on the arcade machines at night. As I said, this is a great relaxing game and one that I think you should give a shot on Game Pass when it releases on June 29th on consoles and PC. So Story of Seasons Mineral Town sees its way onto Game Pass this June, and this franchise goes all the way back to the 90s on the Game Boy. I would know, I enjoyed it back then as a small kid, and this franchise is the OG of farming sim games with a very charming and casual way about it that I've always loved, and Mineral Town's gonna be no different. You're on a journey to restore your grandfather's farm to its once former glory, but to do that, you'll be raising a variety of crops across the seasons, but you'll also be tending to animals and livestock as well. And when you accomplish all that, you'll get to sell all the product you get from all the fruits of your labor. It's really a fun gameplay loop that for me never really gets boring, and it really changes up too when you head into town and you meet your neighbors and you find a future spouse and you fall in love and even start a family, as well as participate in various events throughout the year. If you guys are looking for a way to kind of get away from fast-paced action games and you want something more chill and relaxed, this is a great one when it sees a Game Pass release on June 29th across consoles and PC. Our final Game Pass game is Sword and Fairy Together Forever. This is an action-based RPG in a Chinese art style featuring a pretty rich storyline. That is, if you could follow it if you don't speak Chinese, because you're gonna have to follow along with the subtitles. But what immediately to me sticks out with this title is the gorgeous and beautiful visuals that really make the environments and the character models stand out. And not even touching on the combat itself, that's this traditional hack and slash, but the animations with this really pop out, and the gameplay overall is just really smooth. If you're into Chinese mythology and a lot of Chinese cultural references, I think you'll be interested in this, especially the soundtrack that actually seems to garner the most praise with this game, as everyone seems to highlight it. But overall, there's 30 hours of gameplay if you do some side quests, and if you're a completionist, there's even more. Honestly, the game's up there with some of the recent AAA titles in terms of pure quality, as it's received a rave review since it released back in 2021. And the good news is Sword and Fairy lands pretty soon on Xbox Game Pass on July 5th on consoles and PC. I also wanted to quickly highlight the rest of July games coming later this month. We have ExoPrimal, the team-based online shooter that puts you in these fancy exosuits and has you battling it out against some pretty ferocious and mean dinosaurs. This lands on July 14th. Then we have Techtonica, a unique blend of factory simulation and an adventure game that lets you explore a challenging labyrinth of alien caves and dark dungeons. This lands on July 18th. Then we have The Wandering of Village, a city-building simulation game set on the back of giant dinosaurs in a post-apocalyptic game about building settlements. You'll be gathering resources and just plain surviving. This one arrives on July 20th. And finally, a new day one Game Pass game named Venba. This is a narrative-based cooking game where you play a mom who's looking to make dishes to restore lost recipes of her family. Meanwhile, you pull the family in together for a wholesome story. This sees the Game Pass debut on July 31st. With that, we have the games that are leaving Xbox Game Pass this June 30th. We do have some good ones that I've enjoyed that are leaving, sadly, like Matchpoint and Road 96 and some others. Make sure you guys check them out before they leave, and you have that 20% discount if you want to purchase them. And if you want a list of the best role-playing games on Game Pass, check that video on the screen.